Hey everyone, and welcome to another GameXplain discussion. I'm your host, Derek Bittner, and I'm joined today by Ash Paulson so he can provide his early impressions after playing Sonic Forces for several hours. So let's get started. Alright Ash, so right off the bat, we did not receive this from Sega. We actually managed to find a place that broke Street Date, at least you did, and you had the opportunity to try it out. Now, one of the things we're making sure of right off the bat here is that we're not showing any gameplay from our version. We're not showing off anything from that. We don't want to spoil anything for anybody, so we're just going to basically just give impressions so far because we haven't had a chance to fully beat the game yet, or at least you haven't. But we still wanted to get our early impressions out there for those who might be curious about Sonic Forces. So right off the bat, Ash, how have you been feeling about Sonic Forces so far?
You know, I'm kind of, it's hard to tell because I mean, I'm having a good time, but you know, that usual Sonic Team level of control and physics jank is just there. It's permeating throughout the game, and it does its best at every turn to turn the fun I'm having into not so much fun. And it's, you know, it's the usual Sonic Team jank, and it's so annoying because there's a good game here. Not a great one, necessarily, but a good one. And I'm having fun, but it's just at every corner, it's hamstrung by just, you know, the Sonic Team, modern Sonic physics. You know what I'm talking about, Derek. And in a way, the controls and the physics feel worse here than they did in Generations and Colors. Like, there's no doubt in my mind that Generations and Colors are both better games. So, you know, I'm having fun, but there are some problems with it.
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense. And the other thing to note is that for you, since you're playing this early, the version 1.01 update is not actually out for the game yet. And that's the reason Sega gave for not sending out early copies, is because they wanted this update to be part of it. And they actually put out some news today about what is actually included with this update. So there's added support for additional content, which includes the 3-stage prequel to the main story featuring Shadow, the actual transformation into Supersonic, and even more avatar outfits. But there's also just general fixes like improved main menu controls, adjusted game balance for certain boss fights and stages, fixed player character reaction when taking damage, as well as adjusting some of the skill abilities, test fixes, and minor bugs fixes. So there's little things just here and there to, I guess, generally bring up the quality. Have you noticed, based on any of that, like, any issues though even before this update? I
mean, you know, there are certain boss fights that I guess what you need to do isn't messaged particularly well, and so that, you know, that caused me. I'm thinking of one particular boss fight in general where it wasn't messaged exactly what I needed to do to damage the boss, and I ended up trying too hard when I was really just supposed to hang back and not really do anything and just wait for the weak point to appear. And so I feel like certain game design elements aren't messaged very well. I'm trying to think of specific elements that could be rebalanced, though. I mean, I haven't come across any major, like, difficulty walls or any serious glitches. I mean, again, being a modern Sonic game, it is the kind of game where, you know, Sonic can blast off at the touch of the boost button, and you can go careening off a platform very easily. So, you know, it's with Sonic Forces, you're dealing with the same general, you know, modern Sonic 3D jank that you're kind of used to, but I just feel like it's not impossible to get through the game. It's perfectly fun and fine, but it's just not, I don't know, it's just not as good as it could be, and it's a shame in my opinion. I just feel like there are control issues. I mean, you know, from E3, Derek, from the demo that you and I played, you know exactly what I'm talking about with the avatar stages where the midair physics just kind of don't really make any sense, and you know, you and I are platforming veterans, but we were falling into pits left and right in that demo, and that's still happening to me in the final game, and it's so annoying because I know that you and I were at that E3 and Sega reps were asking us, hey, what'd you think? Well, you know, do you have any problems with the game? And you and I both told them, hey, the controls, the physics, the rest of the game's pretty cool, but, and it doesn't seem like it's been fixed. And it's just really annoying.
Yeah, let's actually start with the avatar, since you mentioned it already, because, you know, you can create your own avatar, then go through the game and see how it plays and all that, and unfortunately it sounds like it still has those just weird control issues where you're not quite as fast as Sonic, but you're also still moving at a pretty good clip, and you have a bunch of gadgets and whatnot to sort of expand upon it. Like, is it fun? Like, beyond the platforming, like, does the avatar do anything really that special?
No, I mean, he has his Wispins, which are like the weapons, or I should say they have their Wispins, which are, you know, of course, the handheld weapons that you can use. And I've honestly been sticking with one of the ones I got at the beginning of the game, just because it seems to be able to handle everything that the game throws at me, and the Wispins aren't fun enough to use for me to want to switch between them necessarily. So it's, yeah, like everything about the Avatar character just feels kind of ill-considered. Like, basically everything you do in the game, every reward you get is new Avatar clothing and accessories, and if you don't care about the Avatar, well, too bad for you, because that is literally the only thing the game ever rewards you with for doing anything. Like, I've been going through every stage and trying to get all the red star rings just to see, you know, sometimes those unlock things, and I have gotten the occasional bonus level, but even the bonus levels, they're very much like the Act 4s and 5s of Sonic Colors, just not as good. They're like these mini levels all based on a single gimmick, or even like the Sonic Generations, you know, side levels too. They're all based on a single gimmick, but they're not as fun as those levels in Generations and Colors. And those levels weren't that great. They weren't the highlights of those games to begin with. So when you unlock a secret stage or a bonus stage, it doesn't feel like anything to get excited about, because it's just like a super short side stage based on a single gimmick, and you're dealing with crappy controls anyway. So, and then again, once you finish the bonus stages, what do you get for it? Avatar clothing. So really, if you're not into the idea of having your own Avatar character in a Sonic game, there's very little this game rewards you with to care otherwise. And I think that's kind of the problem here. I think Sega kind of banked too hard on this Avatar character, but even the Avatar doesn't really feel fully realized and fleshed out. Like, I just don't really get the point of why this character's in the game, and unfortunately, I could say the same for Classic Sonic as well. Classic Sonic feels like he has no reason to be here, and now that they've gone from saying, oh, Classic Sonic is young, you know, the young version of modern Sonic, just in the past, now they've gone to this whole thing where, well, no, Classic Sonic is just an alternate dimension Sonic, and then you've got the whole connection to Sonic Mania, and so many concepts in this game don't feel like they were really fully thought out before they decided just to throw them in there. And I guess at the end of the day, it just kind of feels like a game full of half-realized ideas. Like, I would rather just be playing through Modern Sonic in fully designed Modern Sonic stages throughout the entire game, you know? And because we already had Sonic Mania, I don't hate Classic Sonic. I love Classic Sonic, but as you know from Generations, Classic Sonic doesn't feel as good in these games as he does in games like Sonic Mania and the original trilogy. So it just doesn't feel like he has a reason to be here. And I think at the end of the day, it's like I'm having a good enough time, but it just feels like all these half-realized ideas, and it just doesn't feel like there is a cohesive vision for this project, almost.
Yeah, let's go back to the Avatar real quick, because, you know, you obviously can make your own character and all that, and dress him up, and have all these options. Like, there's also different species. Like, I know each species has its own special ability. How, like, I guess which animal did you pick, and how often have you used that special ability that they have that's inherent to their animal type?
I basically picked the bird from the get-go, just because I looked at all the, you know, the special abilities for each animal, or the one special ability for each animal, and I was like, well, you know, the platforming physics are so bad in this game that the bird's double jump might just save my bacon a few times, and it has. So I basically just picked the bird just to get the, you know, just a little, it's not a great double jump, it's barely a second jump, but it has saved me a few times, and I'm just like, well, you know what, if the game is going to throw these terrible platforming physics at me, then I'm going to pick the ability that is going to mitigate them as much as possible. And so the double jump seems to have, and I hate to think of a game like that. It's like, I don't know why Sonic Team hasn't been able, not only have they not been able to figure out their physics in this game, but they seem to have taken a step back from their controls in games like Generations. So I don't know why. It's so weird.
Yeah, I guess with modern Sonic, is he still fun? Because that seems like your bread and butter right there, where it's at least the closest to what Generations and Colors was trying to do.
Yeah.
But the thing with modern Sonic, at least the design of his levels, is that they all seemed, at least in the demo footage and all this previews they showed, they were all very flat. You know, they like one direction. You could easily just hold down the boost button. Not really much variation, and it came across as a little boring. And is that sort of the case here?
That doesn't hold true throughout the game. I will say that modern Sonic stages tend to be a little shorter and a little less interesting, you know, than you're probably used to from Generations and Colors. However, later in the game, it sucks. Like, the late game hides some of the best modern Sonic and even Avatar stages in the game. And I'm toward the end of the game now, and I just played one particular modern Sonic stage, which I think is probably the best in the game. And I had a great time. I was like, okay, if every stage was this good, we would have a true successor to Colors and Generations. The unfortunate part is that every stage is not that good, but there are flashes of, great modern Sonic levels in this game, and I feel like Sonic fans will at least have a decent time. That's what I'm saying. I'm having a decent time. I'm not hating it. Like, I want to be very clear. This is not a dumpster fire. I don't know, some of what people have been saying, oh, it's going to be a disaster, it's going to be terrible. It's not. It's not great. And I'm kind of in the middle about it. It's kind of but I'm not like, it's not terrible. And if you enjoyed Colors and Generations, I think you're going to have a fun time with Forces. You're just going to be constantly in the back of your mind thinking, man, this feels like it could have been better. Mm-hmm. And that's kind of what I'm doing. It's like I'm having a good time, but I'm just kind of like, oh, well, it's a shame that this isn't more memorable. I feel like I'm going to forget Forces almost as soon as I finish it. Whereas, compared to Sonic Mania, which is one of the best Sonic games, and in my opinion, one of the best 2D platformers ever. And so it's just weird to go from this game that everybody loves and it was so freaking fantastic to like this completely ho-hum kind of, ho-hum experience with broken platforming physics in Sonic Forces. And it's like, man, what happened?
Yeah, it sounds unfortunate, and it definitely seems like a Sonic game for like Sonic fans. It doesn't seem like it'd be great for newcomers. Like you can easily jump right in.
No, I mean I don't think so because again, so much of Sonic Force's story, such as it is, it's not like a hugely in-depth story or anything, but so much of it relies on Sonic's full extended cast of friends, which I've told you before. I don't hate that. I'm kind of having a good time watching the cutscenes and stuff because they're just so goofy. And I can tell you, Sonic Forces does play it completely seriously. It does totally take itself seriously. Infinite is just as much of an edgelord in the game as he has been in his marketing, and it's ridiculous. Like, the story is a lot of fun because it's just complete nonsense. Not a whole lot of it makes sense. It's not very consistent with itself. But it does feature the entire cast of Sonic characters, chatting away, and that's always fun to me. So, but that's also the reason I don't think it's a great game for a Sonic newcomer, because it has all these characters that someone who's never played Sonic wouldn't really know or care about beyond, like, Tails and Knuckles, maybe Amy.
Yeah, I was curious about the story just because they played up the,
It's a mess. It is so inconsistent. It's just like... basically, the story is nothing more than a vehicle to get the characters from point A to point B. The logic is so inconsistent. They build Infinite up as this villain who's able to take on Sonic and beat him at the beginning, and then like later on you're fighting him in boss battles, and your avatar's weapon can just damage it, which makes damage Infinite, which it's just not consistent with itself, and it feels like the story was haphazardly thrown together just to have something to tie everything together. And it's just, but it has all your favorite characters. It has lots of fun moments, and there's some cool fan servicey moments in there. So there is personality to the game. There is some heart in it. There are some cool little jokes and in-jokes, but it's just all wrapped in a game that's just not that good. It's not awful, again, but it's just not that good either.
Yeah. Honestly, it sounds a lot like your impressions of it, sort of like how I felt about Sonic Boom, where it was just like, it's not good, but it like on a sense of a basic platformer, it's fine, but it's just not exciting in any way, shape, or form. And it seems like with Forces, it's basically that, except it is based on Sonic, and it's just a Sonic game that does just kind of failed to excite you in any real way so far.
Yeah, I mean, I think I was hoping for a game, another... What I wanted from the follow-up of Sonic Generations was another modern Sonic game that fully realizes, the structure that Sonic Team finally figured out that worked for, the day half of Unleashed and Colors and Generations. I wanted another one of those games that with just all modern Sonic. And I mean, I will say, the Avatar stages don't kill the game like I thought they would before it came out. Like, they're not awful. They're just not great. And I'm just like, why am I playing as this dumb Avatar character when I could be playing as Sonic? It's... So it's like, the Avatar stages aren't like, they don't ruin the game, but they're just like, I don't care about the Avatar. I don't ever really want to play as the Avatar. And, a good third of the game, it is, I would say, based on what I played so far, and I'm toward the end of the game, Modern Sonic and the Avatar get about the same number of stages. Modern Sonic might get like one or two more. And then Classic Sonic, again, going back to how he feels like an afterthought or doesn't need to be in this game, Classic Sonic has by far the least number of stages so far. So... Again, he just feels like he doesn't have a good reason to be here, and I hate that because I love Classic Sonic, but it's like maybe he should have just, stuck in Mania. Maybe the whole problem is that they went out of their way for Mania and Forces to have to be connected to each other story-wise, and I don't think that's doing Forces any favors, to be honest with you. I don't think it needed to be connected to Mania, and I kind of wish it wasn't. But, you know, of course I'm not going to spoil anything about Forces' story. I'll let, you know, you guys play it, and, you know, Sonic fans, again, you're going to have a good time, I think. It's just you're going to be constantly thinking, man, why isn't this as good as Generations? And that's kind of how I'm feeling. It's like, it's fine, but yeah. And but I will say, I mean, I want to say some good things. On PS4 Pro, I got the PS4 version, I have a Pro, it looks great. 1080p, runs at a smooth 60 frames per second. So the game is a real looker on PS4 Pro, in my opinion. Or at least a relative looker, compared to the Switch version, of course. And the soundtrack, it has a few not so great songs, but I say mostly it's a great soundtrack, and it goes in some different directions that Sonic hasn't gone in before in terms of genre. There are a lot of like kind of trancey vocals throughout the stages, at least the Avatar stages, which, you know, they're goofy and they're cheesy, but really no more cheesy than Crush 40 songs. So I'm enjoying the soundtrack. It's kind of weird and eclectic, but I just want to make it clear there are things to enjoy about this game. And you were talking about Sonic Boom: Rise of Lyric. I have not come across anything in Sonic Forces that is mechanically broken like that game was. Like this game was definitely more focused or more quality assurance tested than Rise of Lyric was. So I don't want to make it sound like it's a broken game. It's not. It's just kind of a forgettable game.
Yeah. Real quick, since we're pretty much ready to wrap up here, another thing people were getting on was the levels, how they were showing us Green Hill is essentially returning and Chemical Plant is essentially returning. Is it just those two, or there's a lot of like that where it's like it's not this level, but it's really this level?
I mean, I would say Green Hill and Chemical Plant are the only ones that are obviously, you know, they're returning, you know, in name and structure and everything from previous games. But there are other stages that are going to remind you of other classic Sonic stages, like you know, like the whole Casino Forest stage. Yeah, that you know, that's not a spoiler because that's been shown off in marketing. It's not that different from any other casino stage you've played in a Sonic game. So in that sense, while it may not necessarily be Casino Night Zone or Casinopolis Zone or some other specific casino zone from a prior Sonic game, it's another casino level. You know, you've played them all at this point.
Yeah.
So Casino Forest doesn't do anything to be like, whoa, this is completely different. It's like, no. And you know, and that's the other thing I would say, that like Sonic Forces isn't, I wouldn't say it's especially short. I mean, of course, if you just blasted the game not trying to get all the red rings and stuff, it's not going to be that long. But I will say that the characters revisit the same general areas multiple times. So even though there are lots of stages, many of the stages reuse similar assets, which is kind of a, you know, it's not super noticeable, but at the same time, it's kind of disappointing that you aren't going from, you know, Green Hill all the way up through like 10 different levels, like, you know, Planet Wisp and Sky Sanctuary, like all the levels and generations and colors, they felt really different thematically from one another, and the overall pool of different level themes they pull from in Forces is a lot smaller.
I see. Well, any final thoughts before we, I guess, conclude your early impressions?
No, I don't think so. I just would stress that I'm having, you know, an okay time, but it's just, it's not terrible, and I think you'll have, you know, a good time if you love Sonic, but especially if you, if you love 3D modern Sonic and you're just itching for more of that. There just isn't that much more of it. There isn't enough of it in this game that I would like. I just wish it was more focused on just modern Sonic and really good, longer, better modern Sonic levels, and not classic Sonic and Avatar, because I feel like they just kind of destroy the focus of the game. And it's just, yeah, it's a weird game to be talking about, because it's like, it's a weird mishmash of ideas that don't fully work.
Yeah. Alright, well, I think that covers it for our Sonic Forces discussion, so thank you for watching, and if you like this video, be sure to like us on Facebook and Twitter at GameXplain, and of course make sure to subscribe to GameXplain for more on Sonic and other things gaming as well. Until next time, bye.